5 of the annual catalog. If you do not have a demonstrator and you need a catalog, please send me a message and I would be glad to get one to you. My email address is stampwithteah, all one word, at gmail.com. That's stampwithteah at gmail.com. And I would be glad to send you a catalog. If you're in the United States, of course, that is a rule with Stampin' Up. So, on page 165 of the annual catalog are these paper florist dies. And I can actually show you, I've got them on magnets here. And there's all these little bits and pieces. And what I did today is I mostly focused on these right here, and I showed you, I'm going to show you 3 different ways to style the same petal. And I've barely even touched the tip of the iceberg. There's even more that you could do with it. But we're starting with 3. And I thought, you know what, how fun would this be? I'm going to make this be, so oftentimes my weekly class will be a gift with purchase. So I'll send you the make and takes with a minimum purchase. And this time what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the same thing, except I'm going to make this kit, these 3 make and takes. This will be my gift with purchase for the entire month of July, because these are special. These are super special. And I think once you see this video, I think you're going to be interested in wanting to try them. And what better way to try them than to try them after somebody else has already cut them out. These 3 kits, let's see, I have it written down here. I think it was 8, I think there's 86 pre-cut pieces in these 3 kits. So, hi Polly, thank you for joining. So, like I said, I've barely touched the tip of the iceberg. I've pulled in a couple of other elements, like I've used different centers on the flowers. I've used a couple of the leaves, I've used a spray, but mostly for the flowers, I've focused on this flower, styling it 3 different ways. So I'm excited to share that with you. And you're going to see more of these from me in the future. I didn't even apply ink to the cardstock of these flowers, which would add even more dimension and more of a dynamic looking flower. I think these are beautiful the way they are, but I'm just saying you could do even more. So that's why I know I'm going to be offering more tutorials using this in the future. I even think, I see 2 in here that I think I could turn into poinsettias. I'm just saying. So I see a lot going on with these. So let's see, what can I tell you? I think today's the 10th, so it's the last day to subscribe to Paper Pumpkin if you're interested. And for the July Paper Pumpkin. And so before I get started on this tutorial, I'm just gonna make sure that so somebody came on, so I'm just gonna make sure that I'm live in all the right places, that all my links are working. And get all the, I didn't realize I had so many documents open. I hate it when that happens. Okay, just click on that, cross my fingers, and I see myself live, so that's a good thing. And then open up YouTube and go over here, and it should say that I'm live. I can see myself. These are the different ways that people will access me. Yep, I'm live everywhere, yay! So I can, oops, go back. I want to get to the screen where I can see comments when it's possible for me to. I'm excited. And I also, a lot of times when I do these kits, I do like same color families, and I didn't even do that this time. I totally switched it up because I truly want you to see how you can take the same flower and make it look so incredibly different. Not just the styling, but also the, just by changing the color. You know, and like I said, I haven't even applied ink to these yet. So once you apply ink, that's really going to change it. Okay, so why? It's not letting me get to the screen so that I can see my comments, which is kind of irritating. What if I do that? And, oh, there we go, there we go. It just had a big delay. Ah, there we go. Oh, and I did the same mistake I did last time. I don't have my arm. Darn it. Okay, I'm sorry. I've got to step over here, get my arm to hang up or hook up so I can put my camera on my desk. I'm sorry. I thought I was, well, I am so ready. Like I said, there's a lot of pieces to this. And I've already, so like some of my customers, I've got some customers that have already made purchases that are large enough that I'm already sending these kits to them. And if you're on my team, by the way, I'm sending these to you because I just feel like these kits are that special. I'm sending these to my team this month because I love you. So I just think everybody needs to play with these because they're that versatile. I really hope these stick around for a long time. Okay, the arm is up. Whoop. Sorry about that, everybody. Okay, let me get my keyboard out of the way. Turn my, okay, so what I told you, okay, I guess I need to tell you, the clearance rack was refreshed. Online exclusives went live this week. There's some Christmas stuff. There's some other things. I haven't focused a lot on them, but they're there if you're interested in them. Go into stampinup.com, go to the menu, look for new arrivals, and they're in the drop-down menu. You'll find them there. I've got 3 cards to show you. I don't want to talk about anything else. I just want to show you these beautiful cards. So let's get started. Let me get this catalog out of the way, and I'm going to move my camera, and we are going to turn this around. And we're even pretty centered this time. Yay, and I think we're clicked in. Sweet. So here are the 3 cards, and as you can see, I mentioned that I'm showing you 3 different stylings of the same petal. So all 3 of these flowers are using the same petal. I've just either curled them different or layered them different or used different flower centers. All 3 of these have different embossed backgrounds. This one even has some additional die cutting. So it feels like I'm being bit by something, but I don't see anything. I wanted you to see that we could do something that looked, even had like a fall kind of feel to it, or kind of a country feel to it. We had something that could be totally springy or weddingy. And then something even a bit more neutral, although this one's a bit pumped up to be considered neutral. But anyway, so I'm going to start with this card here. I'm going to take a sip of water. Now I have pre-cut, scored, die cut everything. I have not pre-stamped and die cut this one piece, my sentiment, but that won't take long. I have pre-assembled, like if there's 3 flowers, I've pre-assembled 2 out of 3. So I will assemble 1, showing you how I've done it. but then everything else is already assembled, so I can just put it together. There's 2 sprays here. Excuse me. So I've assembled one already. So I will show you how to do the one, and then I will just assemble everything. All right? So that's what we're going to do. That's so that I can just keep this clicking along. And what do you think about this ribbon? I colored that ribbon. Isn't that just gorgeous? I love, love, love coloring my ribbon. Get all my bits and pieces. There's a ton of pieces here, everybody. I can even tell you per card. So this card has 32 cut pieces of cardstock. So if you make a purchase, a minimum purchase of $35 on my online store, I will send you all 3 of these card kits for free. If you don't want to make an online purchase, but you want the card kits, if you want to purchase them for $20, I will sell them to you for $20. Okay, so my card base is 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. I am going to burnish that. I'm just going to line up my edges, grab my bone folder, and give that a nice crease. For these pieces, I used my deckled rectangle dies. I used the largest. I thought I had them sitting here. I do. And of course they jumped off as soon as I picked them up. So for this large white mat, I used the largest die, and for the next size down mat, I used the next size down die. Same thing on the inside. The mat, I used the largest die. The message liner, I used the next size down. Then I used the Timber 3D embossing folder. And so after I had cut this out with the dies, with the deckled rectangle dies, I ran this through. I feel like there is a message hiding. Hi, Polly. Okay, yes, I see your question, and yes, I'm using the paper Florist dies. So here, and then I like my wood grain. I'm very cognizant of which direction I like my wood grain to go. I want my wood grain to go up and down on my card, and see where it says Stamping Up, and there's a line across here? The wood grain is going from side to side, so I made sure that my top and bottom was lined up the direction that I wanted it to go before I ran this through the cut and emboss machine. So I am going to go ahead and adhere this to the mat layer. Use my green glue. And kind of center that. Now I am not going to adhere this to my card base yet because I am going to be tying or attaching a ribbon around this entire, including the mat. So, and before I do that, I need to color my ribbon. I might as well go ahead and do that now. I'm going to go ahead and color both pieces. And to do that, I'm going to use my dark Daffodil Delight Stampin' Blend. And this is our 1/4 inch black and white gingham ribbon. And I am just going to, doesn't take much. See, instantly colored. And doing the same. So one of these 2 pieces is the piece that ties around the card front, and the other piece will make the bow. I'm gonna flip these over. I'm pretty sure it already went all the way through, but I'm just double checking, and it did. And that's it. I'm literally done coloring my ribbon. I'm gonna let that dry for a second. So I'm going to show you how to create these flowers. So I've created 2 of them already, and I meant to assemble the 2 small ones and leave the bigger one so that you could see it a little bit easier, and unfortunately I assembled a big one. So we will deal with it. But as you can see, the leaves on this flower are curled up, and then I have a 2-layer center in the middle. So I'm going to take, there's 2 layers to the flower. I'm going to take a bone folder. See if I can find a clean bone folder. And I'm just flipping it over. I'm putting the petals between my thumb and the bone folder and just giving it a gentle curl. Number 1 is done. Number 2 is done. And again, I'm going to show you, bring my dies back over here. So again, I'm working with this die to create these flowers. So 1 set of these, the smaller ones, makes a small flower. 1 set of these makes a large flower for this particular card. Then, when it comes to making these centers, there's all kinds of fun little pieces here that you can use to create your flower centers. And for these, I like these little dotted, see if I can get that close enough. Will it focus so that you can see? You see that little dotted center there? I'm using this dotted center on the same one on all 3 flowers. I'm using this larger circle for the early espresso. I guess I didn't tell you my colors. This is crushed curry. The brown is early espresso. This is Cajun craze. This is pecan pie. And then the 2 greens are old olive and mossy meadow. So for the large flower, for the early espresso, I used this circle that's connected to the little mini dot that's going to go in the center. For the other 2 smaller flowers, I used this circle, and this fits inside and gives you just a little pop of the early espresso around the Cajun craze. I hope you were able to follow that. I'm sorry if I bumbled that at all. All right, so now I'm going to use this. I use just a ton of mini glue dots doing this. I'm going to take 1 set of petals, put a mini glue dot behind the center. I'm going to turn these so that I'm covering up the gaps, you know, so they're, what is that, a 45-degree angle, I think. And then I am going to take the little dotted section, put a mini glue dot behind it. Going to put that on, I'm going to center that on the early espresso. Oops, stuck to my finger. And when these pieces are so small, it's really hard to make it so that you can see it on camera, but I am trying really hard. And then I'm going to put another mini glue dot behind. And you could use green glue if you wanted. And I am going to center that right there in that flower. So because I pre-assembled 2 of these flowers, we now have 3 flowers. Now you'll notice in this card there are 2 sprays. I'll show you what a finished one looks like. So here's what a finished one looks like. Super easy to put together, but these pieces are quite small. So what I did is I take the stems, I flip it over, I use my green glue and put just a scant dot of adhesive on the back of each of those. And then, and I should show you the die. So this is what that die looks like. And then this is what the die looks like that cuts out the buds, the flower buds that go into that spray. But they're individual pieces. So the biggest one fits in the middle. And you want to do that because the base to that bud is bigger. So if you were to put that in the wrong spot, it would overlap and show. The other two, you can put them in either direction. They fit interchangeably. So I just like to get that on there. Oops. And that one's just a little crooked. There we go. So now we have a spray. So we have two because I pre-assembled one. And now we are ready to assemble this card. Well, I haven't made my sentiment yet. I guess I could go ahead and do that real quick. I am going to, okay, that was the other thing I wanted to show you. Because there's no stamps that go with this, you really can mix and match this with anything that you've already got on hand. So that is one of the other reasons that I've used so many different colors, so many different ribbons, embellishments, embossing folders, etc., was just to show you how versatile this set is. So for this card, I am using a sentiment from Charming Sentiments. I'm using the Thank You. When I think of the fall, I tend to think of Thanksgiving and being grateful, and thank you comes to mind. So that's kind of where my mind went with this. It's not necessarily autumn, but that's where my mind went with this. So I am going to use, I've got a piece, so in your kit would come a piece of paper like this for you to put your sentiment. I am going to stamp in Early Espresso. Oh, I'm using a photopolymer, and I'll get a better result if I use my piercing mat. And because I have a fan going, I'm going to re-ink that. We had quite the storm come through this morning, but man, did we need it. It was 102 yesterday, and the air was quite stagnant. And I know at 3 o'clock this morning, we still had not gotten down to 70 degrees. And then by 8:30, we had thunder and lightning, and the wind came in, and things started to freshen up, and the temperature started to drop just a little bit, not a ton. And then the rain came, and oh, it smelled so good. But you know what it's like? I told you, I had 86 times all of the kits that I already had cut laid out on a table here, and I wanted to have the window open in my craft room. Well, I didn't dare, because you could just imagine all of these little bits and pieces flying everywhere. Can you imagine what a nightmare? But in the rest of the house, I did have it. I did have it open. Okay, so I've centered the die, and I'm going to hold it in place. I don't have a magnet on my cut and emboss machine. So I'm going to use just a piece of art tape. Bring in my mini real quick. This is the only piece you're going to see me die cut. Everything else is already done. And you can barely see it on that screen, but there we go. So if you are somebody that has already played with these florist, paper florist dies, give me a shout, let me know. Do you love them? Do you hate them? Do you need to do more? Okay, so there we go. So now everything is prepared. I'm ready to assemble my card. So I am going to take that card front that I've already taken my embossed layer, my card front layer, and put it on my front mat layer. I am going to grab my tape. And I am going to adhere my ribbon right about there. Make it straight across. Man, that rain smelled so good. And now we're only supposed to get to the low 90s, I think 91 today, so that's a blessing. All right, so now that that is on, I can adhere this right to my card front. Because I have so many layers going on, I am adhering this. A lot of times you've seen me, if you've watched me before, you know I like to put my card fronts up on dimensionals. I love that look. There's so many layers in this card already. I think it's better if I just adhere it flat to my card front, so that's what I'm gonna do. So we are getting ready for boat racing season. Well, not getting ready. Boat racing season is here, and the events that we are attending are coming up in the next few weeks. So things are going to start getting a little bit hairy for me, but I think I ought to be able to stay still fairly active. Just might not be able to be on a certain day every week. This week I am on Monday instead of Tuesday. Last week, Tuesday, of course, was a holiday, so I wasn't on. This week, on Tuesday, I have a medical procedure tomorrow, so I went live today instead. And okay, so now we're ready to, okay, I am going to, one of these flowers is going to be adhered flat to the card. One is going to have a single layer of dimensional, which, where did they go? They're right here. So I'm going to put one dimensional, and then the big flower is going to have a two dimensional. So it's going to be stacked. So I'm going to put one, take off the backer, and put another one right on the top. There we go. And this allows us to arrange our flowers, and they're at slightly different heights. Now, before I go too much farther, I want to use a mini glue dot on the back of one of these sprays, actually on the back of both of them. And I'm going to put it down here in this thicker area, and I am going to attach this spray to one of these leaves. Kind of like that. Then I am going to use a little bit of my green glue, being very scant in how much I'm putting on. I do not need to put on much. And I am positioning this up here in this corner, just about like that, maybe just a little higher. So that is nicely positioned. Then I am going to do the same thing with this one. exact same procedure. One mini glue dot. See, there's so much to these. You could see why I pre-assembled some things just so that we could make this go a little bit faster, because there's just a lot today. So this is going to sit right about in here, and I might even sit just like a little bit like in there. Okay. And again, scant amount of adhesive. I'm looking, are there any, no questions, no comments? I could hit refresh and make sure, because I do know that this channel was having an issue when I first started. Okay. Yep, well, I got adhesive there, so that's where it's at now. So it's a little farther over this way than that one was, but I'm gonna have to deal with it, which means my sentiment is gonna end up covering up a little bit of my spray, but that's all right. Okay, next, I am going to, well, you know, okay, where did my sentiment go? There it is. I'm gonna go ahead and put some mini dimensionals on the back of my sentiment. I'm going to put 4 on there. This is going to help me determine how to place the rest of my flowers, since I scooted that over a little bit farther than usual, or than intended. There we go. Okay, now this is going to sit right about there. See, this is what I knew. I needed to change things up a little bit because I can't cover up my sentiment. I got to be careful. That looks about fine, I think. I just have to be careful with where my leaves are going to go. And I have to leave room for my, well, my bow will be pretty right here. I could move my thank you over a little bit. Just a little bit. There we go. All right, so I'm going to adhere this flower here. That's the one that I really don't have much of a choice about. I'm going to use, because it's the one that cannot cover up my sentiment. So this is the one that's going to dictate the placement of everything else. So I'm going to hold that in place for a second while it dries. It actually hardened pretty quickly. And that's looking pretty nice. Then I'm going to use mini glue dots to attach those leaves, to insert those leaves. Doo-doo! It's coming right along, isn't it? All right, mini glue dots. So we're going to put one right about in there. You know what I think I did last time? I think I actually attached the leaves to the flowers before I assembled the flowers, so a little bit different than last time. Not a lot. All right, ready for our bow. Grab my bow maker. I mean, I think this was pretty easy. What do you think? Do you think it was easy? Do you think it was hard? This is just card number 1. I usually try to be under an hour, but because I was offering this particular card as my gift with purchase, or not this card, but all 3 of these kits for the entire month of July, I'm going to end up going over an hour this time, I'm sure. But I'll keep it as close to an hour as I possibly can. All right, I love that ribbon colored with the yellow on the black and white gingham. Mini glue dot. And we're gonna get that put right in there. Trim those ribbon ends. Let's see. Guess I need to turn that ribbon a bit so that I'm going to have to fuss with that so that it doesn't cover up my thank you. That's a pet peeve of mine. And I just broke my own rule. Let's see. That's okay. All right, now I have gems to go on the front, and for these gems I am using the brushed metallic adhesive back dots, and I am using the rose gold. You know, oh, here. So I'm gonna go here, here, here. So the outside of our card is done. Now for the inside, I cut one extra leaf stem. I am going to adhere that down here in the corner. Just a scant amount of the adhesive. And place that right down here. Oh, I would have liked that nestled a little bit closer to the bottom, but it's staying where it's at now. Get some of these dimensional backs out of my way. All right, now adhere this to the matte layer. When there's a lot of layers on the front of my card, I like to put a couple layers on the inside of my card. I like to balance out the weight of my card. I know I'm a broken record. You all have heard me say this all a million times. That's my personal preference. I don't want somebody to open up the card and then have the back be flippy floppy pancake. And we'll adhere that. And we are almost done with card number 1. And I could use a sip of water. Card number 2 has fewer steps to it. And then card number 3 is the big show. Just need to experiment with it. Yes. Okay, so you know what I should do? So after I glue this in, let me show you what I did. Yes, I'm glad you said that, Polly. Thank you. Because that's what I needed to do. I've actually had these for a little over a month, and I needed to experiment. Okay, so there's card number 1. So I imagine, just like everybody else, I have scraps, lots and lots of scraps. And I keep my scraps in a, I don't think it's gonna fit in here, not very well. It's just one of these soft-sided squares that fits in one of my cubes behind me. And I have my various colors in plastic baggies like this. And so I have lots and lots of bits and pieces. And what I did is I went in and I just started pulling things that I thought would make pretty flowers. And I just started experimenting with my scraps. So just for starters, that's how I got started. Then, because of how the dies are laid out, so for instance, you'll notice on this card, I have one big flower and two little flowers. Oh yeah, okay. Protector sheets, yes. Yeah, that makes total sense. So I can get, for like this card, I would be able to get, with one pass, I would get one large flower and one small flower, but I needed another small flower, which meant if you die cut it, then you're going to end up with another large flower. I ended up saving everything that I didn't need. I saved everything in a baggie. And I'm going to be able to play again. And these were all cut out of scraps. So nothing's really going to go to waste. I mean, unless I don't ever get back to this project, but I will because I fell in love with it. Anyway, so I don't know, I just wanted to mention that. Experiment, pull out your scraps. It doesn't cost anything to pull out your scraps, pull out your dies, and just start running it through your cut and emboss machine, and use your bone folder and start flipping it one way and then flipping it another way. And okay, I'm gonna get a sip of water and then we will move on to the next card, which I think is beautiful. Alrighty, so the next card is this card. And this card, I used the Fern 3D embossing folder. You can see there's one large flower, two small flowers. I used the same leaves as before, but I just used two of the leaf stems and then one leaf. And then I pulled this from, I'll show you which stamp set I pulled that from. But so this is a more simple card, but it looks just as involved in my personal opinion. So let me put things back to where I normally grab for them from. Yes, absolutely. And you know what else I did is I took a couple of my bigger scraps and I ran them through my embossing folders and laid them on top of that, just for giggles. Okay, so our card base is the same. It's 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. I am using Bubble Bath for my flowers. I'm using soft sea foam for my leaves. I am using basic white for my flower centers. Basic white for the tag that's on the front. And then my matte layers are Pool Party, and my ribbon is Pool Party. All right, so let's start with, and like I mentioned, I used the Fern 3D embossing folder on white for my card front. Then for the label that goes on the front, this one that says love, I pulled that from Quiet Meadow. I pulled the love from here, and the coordinating dies, which I forgot to look up the name of. Let me look that up real quick. I think they're called meadow dies, but I want to tell you for sure. Where are they? Where are they? I'm looking too hard. I'm in the right spot. Yeah, I was right. They're the meadow dies. And there's, in the meadow dies, there is this one little tag. And that's where I pulled that from. That's the only thing I used from this set for this card, but that's what I wanted to show you, is that you could literally take these dies, these paper florist dies, and mix them with anything that you already have. So I am going to take my card base. I am going to burnish that fold line. You know, one of my customers, I didn't even spot these in the catalog at first. She did. She spotted them on the back of the catalog. And I got to tell you, she really inspired me. She remembered something from her college days, and these dies brought back a very positive memory for her from something that she used to buy back then for paper crafting. And she could not wait to buy them because of how good that memory made her feel. And so I needed to buy them just because of how that memory made her feel. I wanted to feel that too. So I am adhering my embossed card front to my front matte layer. My blog will be updated with all these measurements. If I remember correctly, my matte layer is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8, and my card front is 3 3/4 by 5. My inner layers are the same. I'm going to tape this piece of Pool Party ribbon. This is the Grow Grain Pool Party ribbon. I'm just going to tape that right about there. So this last week was the 2-year anniversary since everybody that watches me is pretty well aware of the bad accident that I had that caused me to have a pretty substantial back injury. And we just passed the 2-year anniversary of it. The procedure I'm going to have tomorrow is actually supposed to help with the prolonged whiplash portion of it. Okay. Ta-da! We have, I'm trying to remember, I'm going to look really quick. All of these were attached with, okay. So these flowers, so the last flowers, excuse me, got a little dry in my throat all of a sudden. The last flowers I created by curling forward. These flowers I'm going to create by curling backwards. And then their center is going to go down. So I'm just creating just a little bit of a curl. And you can make these flowers even more dimensional. I'm trying to make it so that all of these cards are mailable. The next one is the one that would definitely cost more to mail because of how thick it is. All right, I'm going to take a mini glue dot. And put that right there. Oops. Oh, that tore my paper. Let's try that again. That one's stuck. Didn't want to come off. There we go. That's better. A little bit more behaved. And just line those up, just like we did before, except that these are curled back instead of forward. Now I have a different flower center. So for the small flowers, I used these little squares that made this shape of a flower center. And then for the big flower, I'm using this one, which is created by using this die. And sticking that right down there. After this card has been assembled, I will be putting gems in the middle of those flowers. So if they look a little plain at the moment, they are going to look more interesting. I am going to put regular size dimensionals on the back of each of these. I'm putting one on the back of each of the small ones. Small flower. Oh, and I just pulled that off because that's what I did as I got all excited. Well, I'm just going to leave it turned upside down because this one I won't pull off. And then this one I'm going to pull off and then stack one more on top of it so it stands just a little taller. There we go. All right. So now I am going to put just a scant amount of adhesive on the back of, and I could use mini glue dots if I wanted to, but I had perfectly good luck using adhesive on my sample card. And I'm not necessarily going to go all the way out to the end because I like those leaves to have a little bit of a natural lift on them. And I'm going to help out the placement by lifting up my ribbon. There we go. So that's in place. And this one is going to be about like such. So again, with just a little bit more ribbon, a little bit more adhesive. So with the procedure I'm having tomorrow, I was warned that I could either be up and fine within hours, or I could take up to a couple of days to recover. So that's why I wanted to have my live today, because I missed last week because of the holiday, and I took the time off to be with my sweetheart, who does not always get the holiday off with his particular job. So I was really grateful that he had the day off. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start placing my flowers. Thank you, Polly. Appreciate it. Yes, it should go well. Hopefully. It's a new doctor, and he has done me good so far. That's hard, you know, when you've got a big thing going on and you move to a new area and you have to find all new doctors. It's like, but been good so far. All right. There's that. I'm going to use a glue dot on this one. Maybe I'm getting a little lazy. It's also a little easier just to scoot it in. And I'll use press that down. Now I've got a place for my bow right here in my little tag, which I haven't stamped yet, but I need to. Let's get this out of the way. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and adhere this to the front of my card base. Yeah, I don't even know, you know, you go through something like this medically, and it really makes you aware of people that don't have insurance. I just can't even imagine going through this without insurance. Insurance is a blessing and something we definitely do not take for granted at our house. Right. So that is adhered down. Mini glue dot behind this bow. Get that right up and in there. And then going to bring over, so did I mention what ribbon that was? This ribbon is the Pool Party Grosgrain ribbon. And I'm using Pool Party ink to stamp the tag. Hopefully I get it straight. My original one I stamped and then die cut. Yep, turned out great. Then I am just going to use a mini glue dot on the back of this tag and just push this up and inside so that it looks like it's tied in there. And then I'm going to bring in my gems. And for the gems, I am using the Iridescent Rhinestone Basic Jewels. I am going to use a large for the large flower, and then I'm going to use the smaller size for the two smaller flowers. Use my take your pick tool to pick those up. And I'm just placing it right in the center. These are so nice because they pick up whatever color you've got, whatever color is around it. That one went a little crooked. There we go. And one more. So the front of the card is done. Just need to do the inside. Did I just hit the camera? I'm sorry if I did. If you happen to be one of my customers that have already made a purchase this month, I will, and your purchase was $35 or more, I will be, well, all of my customers have made purchases that are $35 or more so far this month. You will be receiving these 3 make and take kits for free from me. They have already been cut. Those of you in the Tri-Cities area, I will be delivering them. It will probably be later this week after I know how tomorrow goes. There we go. So just putting a nice little leaf right here. Going to adhere this to my matte layer. Isn't this a pretty card? It's just so sweet. And if you ever, like, if you pull something out of your scrap stash and you're not sure what to mix it with your flowers, just go to the color page in your Stampin' Up! Catalog and look at what other colors are maybe in the color family. Thank you, Polly. Yeah, the soft colors are super pretty and super versatile. My husband is not a fan of pastel-y cards. He He's also not a fan of peachy colored cards, but the third card was actually his favorite one. He liked the first one a lot. He liked all three, but he doesn't hesitate to tell me which ones are his favorites. It's kind of funny. I think that next week, I am going to demonstrate, what's it called? Birthday royalty? What's it called? Friendship royalty. Next week I'm going to demonstrate friendship royalty. Okay, card number 2 is done. We'll set that one aside. And I knew this was going to go over an hour. Sorry, everybody. I'm going to take another sip of water. It's a lot of talking to describe all these pieces. But at least you have a good idea of what all's going on now. You know, I think because some of the first things that I saw people posting online were like all these home decor pieces and stuff, and I think that's what really kind of freaked me out and made me not so sure about what I was going to do with these dies. Made me delay. I mean, I'm not blaming anybody, I'm just saying it intimidated me. And I really just needed to get in there and start playing with them. Okay, so again, I've pre-assembled some, and so many pieces, This particular kit, this one, has 36 pieces in it. That includes your card base and all your layers, but still, that's a lot of pieces. All right, for this card, excuse me, for this card, we are using, the card base is Pebbled Path. That's the name of the gray. And this is going to be 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2, and this is a top fold card. So I'm going to go ahead and burnish that. And what I've done is I am mixing Pebbled Path with Flirty Flamingo and Petal Pink, Lost Lagoon, and Pretty Peacock, and then some basic white. For the embossed layer, I'm using the Time Worn Type 3D embossing folder. So this one. And then my sentiment on this card, I used from the Go-To Greetings. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere my embossed layer to my matte layer. And these dimensions are the same as the last card. So this is the matte layer is the 3 7/8 by 5 1/8, and the card front, this embossed layer, is 3 3/4 by 5. You know, I really wanted to concentrate on the petals. I do have some ideas for some fun folds with using these dies, but I really wanted to I wanted to stretch what I could do with each of the petals. So if you're new, if you're just joining me today, I really concentrated on this die and using it 3 different ways on these cards. I'm not wrapping a ribbon on this one, so I can go ahead and adhere this one straight down. And I definitely want to on this one because there are dimensionals in between each of the layers of flower on here. So, ooh, don't lose that. I don't want to add any dimensionals between my card base and matte layer. That looks pretty straight. Make sure, am I scooting down out of the screen? Sorry, I try to look and make sure that I'm staying. All right, so our card front is ready for us to start playing with it. I am going to take, so I've already assembled 2 of the flowers. This is how I did that. I am going to like this first flower, I'm going to curl the petals up. So take my bone folder. You don't have to pull hard. You're not going to rip the paper. You're just running it between your thumb and your bone folder. You're just kind of breaking down, softening the edges of that paper. And this card, there's 3 layers to the flower. There's 2 large pieces and 1 small. All right. The next thing I'm going to do is I am going to take a small or a mini dimensional, and I'm going to add it between the 2 layers of the 2 large layers, and then I'm going to add another one on top here and put the small flower layer. Just like that. Then I am going to take a mini glue dot. Where did I lay my mini glue dots? Sure, they're right there. And I am going to take, so for here, the flower center that I used, again, where these squares creates this flower center. And these are going to get white sequins laid on top. And position that. Okay, so we have all 3 of those flowers are made. You may notice I have 2 little daisy looking flowers here. Those were made using, if I can get the die off of there we go, using this die, and I just needed those 2. So I saved all of the big ones when I did the die cutting. And I am going to, and I did not bend the paper for these. I'm going to use a mini glue dot right in the center. I'm going to offset them. I'm going to use 1 very small piece, amount of adhesive in the very center. If I can get it to come out, there we go. And then I'm going to show you this die cuts out 4 very small little scalloped circles, and that's what I put in the middle of these flowers. Those are all included in your kits if you purchase them or if you get them for free from me. There we go. So now we have our 2 little daisy flowers. Then I have 3 sprays. Remember on this first card I had 2 sprays. On this card there are 3 sprays. So I've already assembled 2 of them. I'm going to now assemble this one. Remember, I flipped this over and I just put a very small dot of adhesive on the back of each of these bud bases. So we live in Richland, Washington, and my geraniums are just going bonkers. They are so happy, and so are my impatiens. They are just over the top, crazy happy. My petunias are pretty rockin' as well, now that I think about it. And maybe that's just how it is over here. My first year here, so I'm not used to every year being good, but so far, holy moly. Now we have a couple of plants that we brought with us that are struggling, but the ones that I just mentioned are going crazy good. Okay, so there, all of these pieces are ready to be assembled. I want to stamp my sentiment real quickly. And to do this, I am going to stamp with Pebbled Path ink on, my brain just went blank, on Petal Pink. Pebbled Path on Petal Pink. Yeah, nothing wrong with that sentence at all. And I am using the Go-To Greetings on a strip cut, just a little strip cut. Oh, that didn't turn out at all. Let's try that again. I'm going to give that a test down here. I must have been holding it funny. Okay. It looks like I could trim one side a little bit to even that out, but that's all right. That's an easy fix. I like it when they're easy fixes. Bring my cutting board up here, because that's how I do everything. I love my cutting board, my paper trimmer. It's my friend. There. I just cut off like a 1/16 of an inch in it. That looks much better. And then, oops, mini glue dot stuck to it. There we go. Then I'm going to use my Banners Pick-a-Punch. And banner cut well, if I can get it centered. Ooh, that was close. That was a little closer than I normally do. And then the other end. There we go. All right, our card is ready to assemble. Let's do this. Thank you for those that have stuck it out with me. I know this is a longer than usual video. Okay, so for this card, I used mini glue dots and attached leaves and sprays to each other ahead of time. So this one was behind. This one is, we'll do it behind as well. Let's see. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's pull that off and try that one again. Move the leaf to the other side so that I can keep my same basic layout. And then this one we're going to put the mini glue dot behind. like that. All right, giving myself my kind of sort of layout. Oh, stretch my back just a little bit. Stretch, stretch, stretch. And I'm going to put some dimensionals behind this sentiment. Because the flowers are going to get built up around that. So this is going to sit, getting my approximate placement here. All right, so that's in place. So I can adhere this. Not a lot of science to this, just kind of getting a feel for it. Oops. And I believe these all get attached. Oh no, one gets glued down, the rest get, that one gets glued down. Two get glued down. Okay. Doot, doot, doot. This one gets glued down. Like that. Let that harden up a little bit. Or set. And then put this in place. I think these dies are amazing, and like I said, I am looking forward to, I see a couple of different ways to make some poinsettias out of these for Christmas. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. Ooh. That is, evidently when I took a sip of water, I got a drip of water right on the edge of my table here, which is a nightmare for a paper crafter. That one's going to sit there. This one is going to sit here. Let's see. Let's see, what else can I tell you? I already mentioned about the paper pumpkin. Today's the last day to get to subscribe for the July paper pumpkin. We'll find out what the new one is tomorrow. Clearance rack has been refreshed. I'm going to go ahead and move that up because I'm going to put a bow right there. Online exclusives. Okay, so I wanted to mention, that's I'm glad I remembered that. Online exclusives. If you wanted the truck bundle and if by chance it wasn't available, I did not look today to see if it's available. But if you wanted it and the other day it wasn't available, go on and look again, because I think maybe some stock was slow to come in. And then also, if the punch is available, but the stamp set isn't, remember, Stampin' Up! Makes their own stamps. The stamp set will come in. The punch will take longer, if at all. So if the punch is available, get it and wait for the stamp set to become available. That is my advice. So I wanted to make sure and mention that. I love those little white flowers popped up in there. Oh wow, I just assembled the front of the card. Let me throw the bow on, and then I can throw the sequins on the flower centers. So there's our bow. Then for our flower centers, I'm using the adhesive backed sequins trio. So there are these pinks, there are these pretty peacocks, and there are these whites. Okay, I thought about putting these pinky ones on here, but I wanted a little bit more of a muted instead of a little bit more jazzy. So that was my personal preference. You do you, but if you buy the kit from me, you're going to get white. Just so you know, that's what it's going to come with, or if you get it for free by making a purchase in my online store of $35 or more. I liked the frosty look in the center. I did try both. The other pink looked fine. It was just not, it wasn't the aesthetic I was going for. I have somebody specific in mind for this card that I'm sending it to them for their birthday in like a week. So there. So our card front is done. We're almost done, friends. We're almost done. So now I've got my card, my inner card here. So my message liner is 3 3/4 by 5. I'm going to take one of the pretty peacock leaves and I'm going to adhere it down here in the corner. And then I'm going to adhere this message liner to the matte liner, or to the mat, and the mat is 1/8 of an inch bigger, so it's 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. All of these dimensions will be on my blog later today. All right, let's open that up. I hope that I have inspired you to love how, yeah, right? I do too. I really love how this card turned out. I think this is my wow. I mean, I love all 3 cards. I really, for different reasons. The first one has kind of a vintagey country kind of feel to it because of those little dots, because of the colors, because of the gingham. The second one has just a sweetness to it, but this one, I don't know, this is like my wow card. All right, so we just completed all 3 cards. My friends, so if you want these 3, let me move these out of the way. If you want the 3 card kits, so one of each of these, for free. Make a purchase of $35 or more in my online store, and I will send these to you pre-cut, pre-scored, pre-embossed. The only thing I can't do is I can't stamp anything for you. But as you can see, there's not a lot of stamping on here. You can use basically anything you've got on hand. I send you your bows. I don't tie this bow for you in advance because I can't color the ribbon for you. You have to color your own ribbon, so I send you the pre-cut ribbon, but then you have to do that. I send you a piece of cardstock that's big enough to stamp, and either fussy cut or die cut your own sentiment. I send you this tag, and I send you a strip cut to do a sentiment here. And I send you the gems. So it's a really good deal. If you don't want to, if maybe you're a demonstrator and you don't want to make an online purchase, but you want the kits, you can buy them from me for $20. So let me know if you are interested in that. I am running these for the entire month of July. I normally do something like this for just a week. I am not. I'm going to do this all the way through July 31st. For these 3 cards because I think they're that special. And if you are one of my team members, thank you, Polly. If you are one of my team members, I'm sending the kits to you because I love you so much. I'm so grateful that you're on my team, and I think that you should be playing with these dies. And I know that not everybody has them, and I want you to play with them. So thank you for joining me today, everybody. I love you so much. Have a wonderful day, and big, big hugs. Bye.